it is time for the history of the DC Comics Implosion Part 2. Now, last week, we talked a lot. Last week, we talked about the rise of Jeanette Kahn to the role of publisher and her quest to make DC the premier comics publisher, the launch of the incredibly successful DC Dollar Comics Initiative, and the impetus behind the DC Explosion. The DC Explosion was a strategy on the part of DC to combat Marvel's rise and to beat them at their own game, which, amongst other things, DC thought was publishing a ton of books. So DC thought they would flood the market it as an explosion, and they would take the reins back from Marvel as the kings of comics, if you will. Now, up on the screen, if you're watching us live or otherwise, I have an image of the way that DC promoted the explosion. This was the first ad that appeared in DC Comics that referenced the explosion explicitly. I like that, Sylph. Thank you for saying that. A palate cleanser. Thank you. And on this ad, it says, beginning June 1st, the DC Explosion. More pages, more stories, and the most exciting superheroes in comics. Watch for full details next month. Now, on this cover, I can say that I recognize 5 of the characters.
Deadman.
That all?
For me,
Manhunter,
yeah. For me.
Birdman.
Did you say Birdman?
I mean, Hawkman. I was thinking Harvey Birdman.
Birdman.
Attorney at law. I think there's one character on here I can't, maybe two, that I can't name because and one that I'm not 100% sure of.
So this is almost a 50-year-old image,
Damn.
right?
God damn.
And all of these characters presumably have had many, many, many more appearances now than they had at the time. My question to you guys, right out the gate, because we know that the explosion, things didn't go so well. Is this the way to promote your explosion with characters that nobody knows?
The time, though, people would have known these characters.
Right.
But they're not Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, Aquaman, or any of those people.
I don't think you needed them necessarily to carry the same significance that you would now.
Really? You sure about that?
I think so.
Are you sure that Superman Family wasn't selling 140-something thousand copies? That Batman Family wasn't? Those were the biggest characters 50 years ago.
For sure, but these are also recognizable enough that you can sell an explosion.
Is it?
You can sell these as like side characters.
Can you?
Hey, Marco, go ahead and keep walking into his trap.
I know.
Look out for that pile of leaves on the ground. Surely there won't be a net in it.
The first time I saw this image, which was months ago now, I had the exact same thought. I don't know these people. I would not be excited if today you told me that there was going to be an explosion and it included these characters. I would say I don't give a damn. And I'm not saying that there was no one who cared back then, but I don't think that it would. I think, Marco, if you were in charge of DC, well, you're iffy, but most people would say, hey, show them the people that they love and show them the characters that they don't know yet. That way they anticipate a mix. That seems to make sense. DC decided, let's show them all these jobbers. Let's show them the B list and some of the C list. Not the best idea, DC. But that's okay. Not all of the titles that would be encompassed in the DC Explosion started in 1978. This is something that I think a lot of people don't know. about the DC explosion. And I'm excited about this because I feel like there are a lot of people listening right now who know about the DC explosion and the implosion, but don't know about the things that I'm going to say. This is the part to lean in on. The DC explosion actually started in 1977. Because I have a timeline. Here it is.
I have a timeline, and it starts in 1977.
Actually, Kale, my timeline starts in 1976.
I know. I was here last week.
So in March of 76, DC raised their prices from 25 to 30 cents with a page count of 36.
Wow.
In June of 77, they raised the price again of a standard comic from 30 to 35 cents. March of 77, we got the very first DC dollar comics, which we talked about. In April, we got the next batch that we talked about. In August of 77, DC brought back Aquaman after 6 years with no title. Can you imagine that? Actually, I can. I don't know when the last Aquaman title was prior to the Johns revitalization. But they brought Aquaman back, canceled Superboy, DC Special, and Hercules Unbound. They brought back Mr. Miracle after 3 years hiatus in September, canceled Starfire in October, Richard Dragon Kung Fu Fighter in November, Isis in December. They canceled those titles to make way for the big boom. Here, let me see if I have it. I have it, yeah. Here is a list of the DC lineup of titles in June, July, and August of 1978. What is labeled as the DC explosion? That is up on the screen now. This is a crazy list of books. By my count, it's 52.
Hey.
I don't know if that's, there has to be some deliberate. Maybe it wasn't deliberate at the time, but it became deliberate afterwards. Unfortunately, that's not something that I know. If you're not watching, and you want to know what these titles are, I'm gonna read them. So it's an unbelievable list. Action Comics, Adventure Comics, All-Star Comics, Army at War, Batman, Batman Family, Battle Classics, Black Lightning, The Brave and the Bold, DC Comics Presents, DC Special Series, Detective Comics, Doorway to Nightmare, Dynamic Classics, Firestorm, The Flash, Ghosts, Green Lantern, House of Mystery, House of Secrets, Jonah Hex, Justice League of America, Commandi, Men of War, Our Fighting Forces, Secrets of the Haunted House, Sergeant Rock, Showcase, Star Hunters, Steel, The Indestructible Man, Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes, Super Friends, Superman, Superman Family, Unexpected, Unknown Soldier, War World, Weird World Tales, Western Weird Tales, Witching Hour, Wonder Woman, World's Finest. Then, the unpublished books. These were books that were featured. If you look at the list, if you look at the DC Explosion ad, you'll notice that some of the characters that I mentioned are on this. Aquaman. And remember I said unpublished. Aquaman. Claw the Unconquered. Demand Classics. Mr. Miracle with Big Barda.
Ooh.
New Gods. The Secret Society of Supervillains. Shade the Changing Man. The Vixen, and Western Classics.
Huh.
That is an insane list of books.
A lot of genre titles.
Yes.
A lot.
A lot. A lot. This is years after the Vietnam War, by the way. They're still publishing constant war comics.
Yeah, they had the War of the GI. But I mean, even like the what was it? The Western and the Wacky Western and all that stuff.
Yep.
We don't got that now.
No. Like we said last week, like they baked genre into the superhero. So it became Superhero Plus.
Right.
And it's worth pointing out that like the New 52 tried to reintroduce the genre books to some degree, and that I don't know how well that worked.
It was All Star Western.
I think you had that, and then I want to say there was some kind of Sergeant Rock or something like that. Maybe I'm bugging.
Yeah, there's a Jonah Hex one.
Jonah Hex. Right. Yep. Absolutely. So a laundry list of titles. Remember what I said last time? When we ended our presentation, it was 77, and there was a bad winter. Really bad winter. Keep that in your mind as we move forward. Really, really, really bad winter. So June comes and goes. We get the explosion of books. This was the lead story of Newswatch in the Comics Journal number 41, August 1978. In an unprecedented move that has caused waves of shock and consternation to ripple throughout the comics industry, DC Comics has initiated a massive cutback of their titles, canceling 17 titles and postponing indefinitely 4 new titles that were already scheduled for publication. In addition to this, DC has laid off 5 full-time staffers and has changed its 50-cent 25-page story format to a 40-cent 17-page format. DC has canceled Army at War, All-Star Comics, Batman Family, Battle Classics, Black Lightning, Claw, Doorway to Nightmare, Dynamic Classics, Firestorm, House of Secrets, Commandi, Our Fighting Forces, Secrets of the Haunted House, Showcase, Star Hunter, Steel, The Witching Hour, Demand Classics, Deserter, Vixen, and Western Classics.
All in one breath.
All in one breath. They got rid of all of it.
Damn.
And do you want to hear the secret that most people don't know? Those books were canceled before sales ever came out.
Oh, shit. We can't produce it. Sorry, bye. Wow.
Sales never even came out.
So what did you have running? Like Batman, Superman? Is that it?
You mean what was left?
Yeah.
I'll show you what was left in a little bit. DC had to cut so much of their line. And it's because, well, it's attributed to one of the worst blizzards in North American history. The blizzard of 77. Now, I researched this blizzard because I was like, there's no, come on, you're blaming the weather. This is silly. This is silly. So I looked into it. One of the worst nor'easters in North American history. Dozens of people died. Millions spent on relief, damage control, and getting supplies to the eastern U.S. Traffic frozen, so people had to leave their cars wherever they were.
What?
It devastated the package delivery services, making it nearly impossible for retailers to receive their comics on time. By the time many comic books hit racks, they were older and went unsold, which, because of the returnability policy at the time that we talked about last week, meant that DC would eat those costs. Remember what I said. This is proto-direct market. DC was relying on everything else. That's newsstands, that's, grocery stores, that's all the rest of it. Those places did not receive their books. They couldn't. By the time that they did, people didn't want them anymore. And so guess what happened? Those books went back. And DC did not reap the benefits of having sold them. Devastated. This blizzard was so bad, it spawned music, 2 books, and a board game.
Music by who?
No one that, no one that I know.
Just a band writing about getting stuck for like 3 days under snow. It's like, I was in my car.
I just thought it sounded cool that was the case. It's true, but I included it because I thought it was interesting.
It's funny.
Mike Gold, who was then DC Comics publications representative, said in a July 1978 interview from Media Scene number 31, "It all starts with our yearly budget review meeting, which is held 6 months after our annual budget meeting. One gives you the money, and the other checks to see how you're spending it. In 6 months, anything can happen, and this time it did. What we saw in May was a result of this winter's blizzard, and things just sort of rolled along from there, out of DC's control. To be honest, however, what happened was not solely responsible to these figures, but more due to the patterns which have been developing over the past several years." Why did the implosion happen? What caused the sales at DC to dip so badly? Last time we talked, everything was on the up. Well, that's because comics work so far in advance. Last time we talked, everything was on the up, but they hadn't yet received the financial, check-in from everything that was going on. The newsstand was already looking to get out of the business of comics. They didn't want to sell comics anymore. Not at the rate they had been, because they weren't making any money. This was a cascading effect that started way before 77 and then finally started to be felt by DC Comics in 78. Things were bad. But what about the Savior? What about Superman the movie? I told you it'd be out in June, and it would save
right.
DC Comics. Here's a picture that I have on the screen if you're watching of Jeanette Kahn, Sol Harrison, who was the president at DC, and Christopher Reeves looking over. I think it was fan entries or something like that, or it was something like that. But they're together preparing for this this great this great movie that's about to come out and save DC. Well, any historians in the chat, any historians that are listening to me now, people with decent memory, will know that Superman the movie did not come out in June of 1978.
Huh?
It didn't. The movie got delayed.
Oh no.
The movie was delayed because of problems in production behind the scenes. They were filming 2 movies at once. They were filming Superman 1 and 2 at the same time. Off the strength of the fact that Superman was so popular and they had such high hopes and faith in this movie that it would do well. So well that they need a sequel. And Richard Donner, he was fed up. He wasn't happy with how things were going. He was pretty frustrated. And so they kind of put things on pause. The movie got delayed. And it would still release in 1978, but way too late for the plans that DC had to coincide with the release of the movie. What was supposed to be the tie-in was called Superman World of Krypton. That story was supposed to be baked into Showcase, which was a series that DC had at the time. Because it was so late, they pulled that story from there and they released it as a limited series down the line, which was called World of Krypton. That is the first limited series ever.
Whoa. That's cool.
Yeah. So we got a little bit of history due to the delay of this film. Now, a lot of people lost their jobs. A tremendous amount of people lost their jobs.
Yikes.
So, March of 78, I do want to include this because it's pretty cool. March of 78 saw the release of Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams' Superman versus Muhammad Ali comic, which existed because of Jeanette Kahn's reestablished relationship with Neil Adams. They were DC and Neil were on the outs at the time.
Oh, she brought him back in?
She brought him back into the fold, and this was a direct result of that.
Wow. Okay.
By August, DC had to cancel 4 titles. The Aquaman that I talked about, Mr. Miracle, Claw, and Shade. In September, they canceled 8 more. Not only that, but they cut the price down to 40 cents and the page count to 17. In October, they canceled another 6. And that's how DC closed out the year of 1978. On their ass. Having laid off all their freelancers. One guy who was writing Green Lantern kept his job. In terms of freelancers. And you know what happened? It sent everybody over to the Marvel side of things. Which I think is fascinating history in and of itself. The people that got fired then turned over to Marvel. People like Larry Hama, sorry. Al Milgrom. So many people. Who knows what they could have done had they stayed at DC.
Yeah.
Marco, you wanted the list of DC's books at the end.
Yeah.
So in 1979, the image won't work for some reason. But in 1979, post the DC implosion, all you had was Action Comics, Adventure Comics, Batman, Brave and the Bold, DC Comics Presents, Detective Comics, Flash, G.I. Combat, Ghosts, Green Lantern, House of Mystery, Jonah Hex, Justice League of America, Men of War, Sergeant Rock, Super Friends, Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes, Superman, Superman Family, Unexpected, Unknown, Warlord, Weird World Tales, Wonder Woman, and World's Finest Comics. That's it.
Man. So half, almost more than half
than
the publication line. Yeah.
Gone. Think about all the creators that represents.
Yeah. It's out the door.
So, what happens next? What happens after this explosion completely backfires and becomes an implosion? What happens to all these creators that got fired? What happens to the work that was already produced? And why did the implosion happen? Well, that's what we'll talk about next week. On part 3 of the history of the DC Comics implosion. To me, it's fascinating. Go ahead, Marco.
It's an interesting experiment in comics, and I think one that was thought through, but the circumstances around it caused it to fail. And that's the curious part, is I think there was strategy and idea and innovation here, but the cards didn't pan out like that.
Yeah, it sounds like sort of the lessons that were learned was that it's better to hedge your bets.
Yeah. Versus the initial, this was the opportunity. It came at a cost, and we lost this round, but that does not mean we stagnate, right? We need the next explosion. But to your point, it was, an explosion will fail.
It's a combination of things that we'll definitely get more into next week. I think DC chasing Marvel probably led them into a pitfall that they didn't see coming. Amongst a lot of other things.
Historically on brand.
Right.
Well, looking back.
Right. Yeah. Thank you all. Thank you for the kind words. If you enjoyed this, we appreciate knowing that. You guys already know all the ways you can support us. Thank you for those that do. Thank you for those that are expressing their enjoyment. I wanted to do 4, but we might do 3. I'll figure it out this week and let you guys know how we're gonna close out. But yeah, we've got more in the tank to talk about as it relates to this. And if there are other subjects that you want us to talk into and dive into, let us know.
Please.
Yeah, what's next? I got ideas. What are yours?
These are fun to
I
do
have
for us.
ideas.
Ooh.
Oh, kill.
Ideas.
I forgot what they were now, but I had one today, and I went, "Ooh, that could be good."
Oh, shoot.
So if I remember, maybe I'll do one.
Okay. That could be fun.
Shit.
Yeah.